Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'm going to be covering the weather for May 2nd, 2023. This forecast is a little bit more advanced for someone like me without proper meteorological college classes or training to be able to make a 100% accurate forecast, and I think the next few days will be very unsure for me. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. Again, if you check the description, you should. I've tried to make it clear that I am not a trained meteorologist just yet, so the next few days are going to be a little bit more advanced and more difficult for me to forecast, so just bear with me. I am doing these forecasts to get better with meteorology, but also to warn people about upcoming severe weather events. So please bear with me, and I'll try to cover these threats for today and tomorrow as best as I can, even if they're not 100% accurate. But for today, there is a slight risk for eastern Texas and a marginal risk around it. We're not seeing any sort of low pressure system associated, or low pressure trough or low pressure system associated with the system, but there is mountains to the west of this slight risk area. So whenever wind goes over those mountains and then dips back down, it can create a low pressure system, a very weak low pressure system, in what we call a lee trough, because it's on the leeward side of a mountain. But there is a slight risk. What we're going to expect for this slight risk is going to be mainly the possibility for damaging winds associated with these systems and the potential for hail, and these systems are likely going to be more isolated than organized into one big system. You can see that storm development is expected to fire up later on this evening, and can persist overnight further eastward, and continuing to Oklahoma by Wednesday. But if we look at let's look at the dew points first. Let's look at the humidity in the atmosphere. You can see that very gradually moisture has started to return to much of the southern plains, and is causing a lot of instability as it slowly makes its way to this area. Is causing instability between the dry and the humid, as well as the very weak leeward low pressure system. It's slowly becoming more is slowly getting more moist in the southern plains, very gradually. If we take a look at our soundings, though, there is this one doesn't look to be very good, because the ones I've been seeing earlier have looked something like this, as far as dew points, where they have a slight tilt, and then it caps out around here, and then very strong humidity tilting upward. So what it's basically saying is that there's very weak, very dry air on the surface layer of the ground, very dry on the surface, but then more mid-level humidity, making the storms that are going to develop over in that area likely to be high up, likely to be more higher base than lower to the ground, in more mid-level because of the higher humidity on the mid-level area, mid-level layer. But as this humidity slowly makes its way north and northeastward back to the northern plain or southern plains, it is causing lots of instability for this area and probably the areas around it too. But if we take a look at the Cape, we can see that the instability is very moderate in that area. It's very moderate and not very strong. So there is enough to support severe weather development, but I don't think there's enough to really support at least not a strong amount to support tornado development yet. But if we look at the the wind shear in the atmosphere, there is some relatively isolated and weak but very deep embedded wind shear with the systems here as they develop. Likely not tornado producible, but if we look at the lapse rates, though, with that a very gradual return in humidity to that area, and what's likely a part of the instability for that area is there's also very strong lapse rates in that area there. Very strong lapse rates to mix up a lot of that area and making the graphs very tilted and allowing for more instability, as well as the gradual return of moisture to the area. But again, our main threats are going to be hail, the potential for hail, maybe the potential for large hail, damaging winds, and maybe very likely not a tornado threat. But if we look at lower level winds, there are hardly any low level winds associated with any sort of trough or whatever that could support tornadic development in that area. What you are seeing for this small area right here is only it's likely only just associated with the storm development and damaging winds, but as well as very weak more upper level winds. Again, not associated with any trough. And again, these areas of strong upper level winds are likely to just be associated with damaging winds in the thunderstorms. So, but again, I did tell you about how this forecast was a little bit more difficult for me to make. I'm still improving on meteorology. I'm still you can consider me a still very early amateur or whatever, and I'm not really good at it yet, but that's why I'm making these forecasts to improve, but overall to also help warn you guys about any severe weather possibilities and for the future. And with that, please check out the socials for Project Gladiator if you would like to help me and support me on this journey of getting better with meteorology. And hopefully, I most likely won't see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.